California has had the most expensive gasoline in the country. And now lawmakers are warning that prices could go even higher very soon.
Most Californians won't notice it at first. There won't be a dramatic announcement or a single headline that sets off alarms. Instead, it's happening quietly, one facility at a time, one investment decision at a time. Oil companies are pulling back from California, and the consequences won't show up immediately. When a company stops investing, delays upgrades, or converts a refinery to something else, drivers don't feel it that week or even that month. The system keeps running until it doesn't. Then prices jump, stations scramble, and everyone asks the same question: how did this happen again? What makes this moment different is that the exits are no longer isolated. They're part of a broader pattern driven by economics, regulation, and long-term uncertainty. While public debate focuses on blaming companies or celebrating environmental goals, the fuel system Californians still depend on is shrinking in real time. If you want to understand why gas prices feel unpredictable and why future spikes may be sharper and harder to control, you have to understand why companies are quietly deciding that California is no longer worth the risk. The exit that no one sees happening. When people imagine companies leaving a state, they picture closures, layoffs, and press conferences. California's fuel market doesn't work that way. What's happening now is not an exit you can easily see, it's an erosion. Oil companies are not slamming doors. They are quietly stepping back from long-term commitments. They are choosing not to expand, not to modernize, and not to take on the risk of future investment. On the surface, refineries still operate. Gas stations stay open. Nothing appears broken. But under the hood, the system is becoming weaker every year. How energy companies actually make decisions. Oil and energy companies operate on long timelines. Major investments are planned 10, 20, even 30 years into the future. Before spending billions on upgrades or new capacity, companies evaluate several factors: regulatory stability, future demand, political risk, and return on investment. California scores poorly on predictability. Regulations are strict and constantly evolving, compliance costs are high, and long-term policy goals clearly signal that fossil fuel use is meant to decline. From a corporate perspective, that creates a problem. Even if demand remains strong today, the question becomes whether a facility will be allowed to operate long enough to justify the investment required to maintain it. When the answer is unclear, companies hesitate. The difference between shutting down and pulling back. Most refinery exits don't begin with shutdowns. They begin with delays. Maintenance gets pushed back, upgrades are postponed, expansion plans are shelved. Over time, these choices reduce capacity and resilience. Equipment ages. Redundancy disappears. Facilities become more vulnerable to outages. By the time a refinery officially shuts down or converts, the system has already been stressed for years. Refinery conversions change supply permanently. One of the least understood changes in California's fuel market is refinery conversion. When a refinery is converted to produce alternative fuels, it often stops producing gasoline altogether. From a policy standpoint, this is framed as progress. From a supply standpoint, it is a permanent reduction in gasoline capacity. The critical detail is that demand does not vanish at the same pace. Drivers still commute, goods still move by truck, emergency services still rely on fuel. This creates a structural imbalance that makes price spikes more likely. Why California has no slack left? In a healthy fuel market, there is extra capacity built in. If one facility goes offline, others can ramp up production. California no longer has that cushion. With fewer refineries operating near full capacity, any disruption planned or unplanned tightens supply immediately. Prices respond not because of greed, but because scarcity is real. This is why California prices react faster and more dramatically than those in other states. Competition shrinks as companies leave. As companies reduce operations or exit the market, competition declines. Fewer players mean fewer alternatives when something goes wrong. This does not require collusion to raise prices. It simply means that the remaining suppliers hold more of the market and the system becomes less flexible. When competition shrinks, volatility grows. Policy signals matter more than headlines. Many people assume companies react only to laws that are already in place. In reality, policy signals are just as important. Announced goals, timelines, and political messaging shape investment decisions long before regulations take effect. California's messaging is clear. Fossil fuels are being phased out. The uncertainty lies in how quickly and under what conditions. For investors, uncertainty is risk, and risk discourages spending. Demand has not declined fast enough. Despite rapid growth in electric vehicles, gasoline demand remains significant. Millions of Californians still rely on internal combustion vehicles, especially in suburban and rural areas. Commercial transport remains heavily fuel-dependent. Construction, agriculture, and delivery services cannot easily transition away from gasoline or diesel overnight. This means the fuel system must continue supporting real demand even as investment dries up. The timing gap that confuses everyone. One of the most frustrating aspects of gas prices is timing. Decisions that cause price spikes are often made months or years earlier. By the time prices rise, the causes are no longer visible. A delayed maintenance project today might lead to an outage next year. A canceled upgrade might reduce output during a future heat wave. These delays create a false sense of stability until they don't. Why blame comes too late? When prices spike, public anger targets oil companies or politicians. While emotional, this reaction misses the window where intervention might have helped. Once capacity is gone, it cannot be replaced quickly. Once a refinery exits, it does not come back easily. Once investment capital leaves, it is difficult to attract again. Blame does not restore supply. The human and economic cost. Refinery pullbacks affect more than gas prices. Workers lose stable, high-paying jobs. Communities lose tax revenue. Local economies suffer ripple effects. At the same time, higher gas prices squeeze households and small businesses. Transportation costs rise. Delivery fees increase. Everyday goods become more expensive. These pressures accumulate quietly across the economy. Why imports are not a safety net. Imports are often presented as a solution, but they are limited. California's fuel specifications restrict what can be imported. Shipping takes time. Global markets are competitive. Imports can soften prolonged shortages, but cannot instantly replace local capacity. They are reactive, not preventative. What the system is signaling now. The current trend signals continued fragility. As long as investment remains uncertain and demand remains present, the system will remain vulnerable. Price relief may occur temporarily, but stability requires either new capacity or sharply reduced demand. Neither is happening fast enough. What drivers should prepare for? Drivers should expect volatility rather than consistency. Sudden spikes will continue to occur, often without clear explanations at the moment they happen. Understanding the structure helps explain why these shocks feel inevitable. Oil companies are not loudly abandoning California, they are quietly disengaging. And in a tightly constrained fuel system, quiet decisions can have loud consequences. The next gas price shock will not come from nowhere. It will come from choices that have already been made, choices that weaken the system long before drivers see the result on the sign at the pump.